Your online business is meant to set you free, not trap you. Yet, for many, that's exactly what happens. What if I told you the key to your prison has been in your pocket all along? Stick with me, because the story I'm about to tell you, inspired by real events, might just save your project, and more importantly, save yourself. Today, we're not going to talk about complex marketing strategies or sales funnels. We're going to talk about the invisible cost of online success. We'll follow the story of Alex, an entrepreneur who had everything going for him, but nearly lost it all by falling into the most insidious trap of all, burnout. Through his journey, we will uncover the 7 locks of his gilded cage and, more importantly, the 7 keys he used to break free. This isn't just a list of tips, it's a roadmap for building a sustainable business without destroying yourself along the way. Chapter 1: The Prison of Productivity. For Alex, it all started with a simple mantra: outwork everyone. He plunged into the hustle culture, the idea that every minute not working was a minute lost. His days started at 5 in the morning and ended long after midnight. He wore his lack of sleep like a badge of honor. A vivid example? His daughter's birthday. He had promised to be there, but an urgent email kept him away. He ended up arriving when the candles were already blown out, the cake eaten, and his daughter asleep. He justified it to himself by saying it was for her future. The truth was, he was a prisoner of an illusion, the idea that sheer volume of hours equates to success. The turning point for him was realizing that the entrepreneurs he truly admired didn't boast about their 70-hour workweeks, but about the impact of their 10 most focused hours. The key he discovered was this: true productivity isn't about doing more things, but about doing the right things. He began applying the Pareto principle, the famous 80-20 rule, by identifying the 20% of his actions that generated 80% of his results. The rest? He eliminated or delegated it. But freeing himself from overwork was just the first step, as another, far more insidious prison awaited him. Chapter 2: The Digital Prison. Alex was physically present, but mentally always somewhere else. His phone was an extension of his arm. Every vibration, every notification pulled him back to his business. Family meals were interrupted by Slack alerts. Movie nights were punctuated by the compulsive refreshing of his sales stats. He lived in constant anxiety, the fear of missing out on something important. The most striking example was one evening at a restaurant with his partner. She was telling him something important, and he saw a payment notification on his phone. A smile crossed his face. She saw it and said, "You're happier seeing a sale than listening to me, aren't you?" It was a wake-up call. He realized he had become a slave to his own tools of freedom. The key he forged here was the creation of disconnected sanctuaries. He implemented strict rules: no phones at the dinner table, no notifications after 7 p.m. He scheduled specific times in his day to check emails, instead of letting them dictate his pace. He rediscovered the joy of being fully present. And it was this newfound presence that allowed him to see the bars of his third prison. Chapter 3: The Prison of Micromanagement. If you want something done right, do it yourself. This phrase was Alex's motto. He had built his business with his own hands and trusted no one else to take care of it. He spent hours correcting commas in a blog post written by a freelancer, adjusting the color of a button on his website, checking every customer service response. He had become the bottleneck of his own business. The example that tipped him over the edge? He spent an entire week learning video editing for a simple ad, when he could have hired a professional and used that time to develop a new product strategy. Result: a mediocre video and a missed opportunity. He was exhausted and his business was stagnating, choked by his need to control everything. The third key was the hardest for him to accept: learning to trust and delegate. He started small, entrusting the management of his social media. He had to fight the urge to double-check everything. But when he saw that not only was the work done well, but sometimes even better, because the person was a specialist, he understood. Delegating isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of leadership. And that was just the beginning, because even with delegation, he still felt terribly alone. Chapter 4: The Prison of Isolation. Alex's business was growing. From the outside, he had every reason to be happy. But inside, he'd never been so alone. Online entrepreneurship is a lonely road. His salaried friends didn't understand his problems. Talking about his doubts or fears felt like an admission of failure. The image he projected on social media was one of flawless success. The anecdote that still haunts him is the day he reached his first major revenue goal. A moment he had fantasized about for years. He opened a bottle of champagne, alone in his office, looked at the numbers on his screen, and felt nothing. Just an immense void. He had no one to share that victory with, no one who truly understood the blood, sweat, and tears it had taken to get there. The fourth key was to break the isolation. He actively sought out and joined a mastermind group, a small circle of entrepreneurs who met to share their challenges openly. For the first time, he could say, "This month is tough," without being judged. He understood that vulnerability was a strength and that his peers were his greatest resource. But even surrounded, he was still threatened by a mental trap. Chapter 5: The Prison of Infinite Growth. For Alex, success was never a state, but a constantly receding destination. Every goal achieved was immediately replaced by another, larger, more ambitious one. He lived in the future, obsessed with the next level. He never celebrated his victories. The most telling example is this: after doubling his income in a year, his coach asked him, "And now, what would truly make you happy?" His immediate answer was, "Triple it next year." He was addicted to growth, not for what it brought him, but for the race itself. He never enjoyed the fruits of his labor. His life was an endless sprint towards a finish line that didn't exist. That's when he discovered the fifth key, perhaps the deepest, defining what enough truly meant to him. Instead of chasing infinite growth, he defined his life goals. How much money did he truly need to live the life he desired? How much free time? What quality of relationships? He transformed his business from a growth machine into a tool serving his ideal life. And now for the most crucial insight. Chapter 6: The Prison of the Body. In his relentless pursuit of productivity and growth, Alex had completely forgotten his most valuable asset, himself. Sleep was for the weak, meals were sandwiches eaten in front of a screen, and exercise was a distant memory. He ran on coffee and adrenaline. He thought he could keep burning the candle at both ends indefinitely. The alarm bell was a visit to the doctor for persistent headaches and chronic fatigue. The diagnosis was simple: exhaustion. His body was screaming at him to stop. He treated his business with meticulous care, optimizing every process, but completely neglected the engine that powered everything, his own body. The sixth key was a true revolution, viewing his health as a strategic investment. He blocked out non-negotiable slots in his calendar for exercise, meditation, and preparing proper meals. He made sleep his number one priority. At first, he felt guilty about wasting time. But very quickly, he found that his work hours were twice as effective. He was more creative, more focused, more patient. He was no longer just surviving, he was thriving. And that led him to the ultimate revelation. Chapter 7: The Prison of Purpose. After optimizing his time, mind, and body, Alex realized something was still missing. The sacred fire of the early days had died out. His business was doing well, but he was running it like an automaton. The why, the deep reason he had started everything, had been lost along the way, buried under revenue targets and to-do lists. The telling anecdote is a customer testimonial he received. Someone was explaining how his product had changed their life. Alex read it, filed it in the testimonials folder, and moved on, without feeling the slightest bit of pride. It was just another data point. He had turned his passion into a mere spreadsheet. He was the warden of a prison in which he was the sole inmate. The seventh and final key was to reconnect with his mission. He took an entire day, away from his computer, to reread his first business plan, the scribbled notes full of dreams and ambition. He asked himself, what impact do I truly want to have? He began integrating this mission into every decision. He highlighted his customers' stories, not just for marketing, but to remind himself of the purpose behind it all. He began creating with joy again, no longer out of obligation. In conclusion, Alex's story shows us that burnout in online business is not an inevitability, but a direct consequence of the prisons we build for ourselves. The prison of productivity, the digital prison, the prison of control, the prison of isolation, the prison of endless growth, the prison of the neglected body, and finally, the prison of lost purpose. The keys to breaking free are not complex secrets. They involve working smarter, not harder, disconnecting to reconnect better, trusting, building connections, defining what enough is, taking care of yourself as your greatest asset, and never forgetting why you started. Your business should be a vehicle for your freedom, not a cage, even a gilded one. You have the power to build both. Choose wisely. Save this video so you don't forget. Don't forget to subscribe.